Hello there. Welcome to episode number 11 of Little Big Knits. This is a podcast about knitting primarily and other little goodies here and there. My name is Selma. I'm coming to you from Ottawa here in Canada, and you can find me on social media as Selma Knits. That would be on Instagram as well as Ravelry. It's interesting, but I seem to have got a cat who likes showing up now in the podcast. She did not show any interest whatsoever before, but since the last time I podcasted, the weather has changed quite dramatically. The last time I told you we were having a mild December, and I wasn't sure if we were going to have a white Christmas. Well. We got a white Christmas, and we've got extremely cold weather. It has been minus 20, minus 30 Celsius, and really cold. And Yoda will not go out. She's not keen on the snow, but if it's mild, she'll still probably go out once a day. But now that it's that cold, she won't even go near the door. But as a result, she's kind of miserable and whiny. So she may be showing up a little bit more because she keeps walking around me and whining. She's angry and irritated by this weather. So anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining me if this is your first time, and thank you for returning if you just keep coming back again and again. I really appreciate it. I've had lots of people introducing themselves in the introductions thread in our Ravelry group. So thank you very much. We have a Ravelry group called Little Big Knits, and it is on Ravelry, and it is where you'll find the show notes, and there's an ask away thread and an introductions thread, and any cowls or knit-alongs that we have will be there, and so forth. So yeah, go ahead and check it out and become a member if you like. So it is the 29th today, I believe, and it's been a lovely holiday season here. I hope you've had a good holiday if you have been partaking of the celebrations, and even if you haven't, I hope you've enjoyed all the lights, because that sure is my favorite part. I love the lights at Christmas time and the music and all that kind of stuff. So it's been lovely around here. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the chit chat section. Before I actually get into the knitting, let me tell you that we have reached 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's very exciting. Thank you for joining me on this knitting journey. Thank you for subscribing and liking the podcast and making comments, and I really enjoy it. So I thought that I should do a little giveaway. So I had not even thought about the prompt. Let me think about that quickly while I show you what the prize is. So basically, to enter this prize, I'm going to ask you to make a comment down below in YouTube. That'll be your entry for the prize. I'll do it like I did for the 1,000 subscribers as well. Since there aren't that many, there aren't people who necessarily go over to Ravelry. Many people, I think, just enjoy being on YouTube and don't necessarily want to partake of all the other stuff. So I'd like you to have a chance as well to enter the giveaway if you're interested. So what can we do now? Well, feel free to comment on anything that you are knitting on right now, but I would love to hear if there's something that you'd like to see on the podcast, or something that you have particularly appreciated on the podcast, or what you enjoy about it. And I'd love to read, especially to know if there's something in particular that you'd like me to talk about. I had a very interesting question recently, actually just yesterday, in the Ask Away thread, and I have responded to the person to say that I'll talk about that next time I podcast, because I want to be able to think about it a little bit. She asked a very interesting question. So if there's something that you want to see, feel free to mention that down below as well, or just mention what you like, or if you're a new viewer or whatever, something like that. Okay, and The prize, I think I showed this to you last time. It was this beautiful skein of Mondim yarns, and I've been back on the website to look at all the different colorways. This very, very interesting yarn that is from Portugal, and it is 100% Portuguese yarn. It's called Mondim, and it was Dale of Farm to Cables who sent it to me. And this is 100% Portuguese wool, but it's meant for socks. It's meant for sock making, and it feels like a very sturdy yarn. That doesn't stop you from making something else from it, but this will be the prize, along with this Progress Keeper from Rin Textiles. I had gotten myself one. In fact, I have a project that I was just using it on, and I got one for you guys as well that I wanted for a prize. And the last thing that will be part of this prize is this pattern, which is by Anna Friberg, who is Yarnisty on Instagram and I believe Ravelry, and she designs fantastic socks. And she designed this pair called the Santa Lucia socks, and they're just a beautiful and simple colorwork sock. I'm very intrigued by them myself, and I just love the red with the cream, but they could be absolutely anything. There have been some who've made them in green and blues and different colors. So these three things, the yarn, the stitch marker, and the pattern, these three things will be part of the prize. So feel free to enter down below, and what I'll do is I'm actually planning on possibly podcasting again next week, at which point I would answer the question that that Emma asked in the thread, and I'll draw for the prize. So, or maybe I won't. I want to give enough people a chance. So maybe I'll wait and see how many entries there are. Anyway, oh, that's okay. Anyway, that's maybe I'll wait, and I won't do it next time. I'll do it the time after that to give everybody a chance. So there you go. Thank you again for subscribing and for being part of this little community. I really appreciate it. It's so much fun. I think about podcasting a lot. It's kind of strange. Anyway, all right. So let's get on. I've actually got two teas here today. I'm finishing off my green tea from this morning. I'm not a huge green tea drinker, but I wanted to drink something a little different today. So I've got some matcha tea, and this is the winter Christmas mug from these are a whole series of mugs from Finland based on the Moomin characters. There's the little Moomin right there, and they're from Arabia in Finland, and I've got many of them, although there have been a few broken recently. So I'm drinking some green tea in here, but I've also got some wonderful rooibos tea that somebody gave me in this mug that my friend Sue gave me at Christmas time. So I've got like 2 mugs going. I'm going to finish the caffeine and then move on to the herbal. I do drink a lot of tea, I have to say. I love herbal teas of all kinds, and I often drink nettle tea in the evenings. Nettle is supposed to be full of minerals and iron, and I drink that, and I drink herbal teas, and I often drink black tea and oolong tea. And green tea is something that I drink a little bit less of. So, actually, before I get into what I've finished, maybe I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm wearing. This is a vest that I made out of Cascade yarn. The purple is Cascade. The other colors are actually Galway Heather. They were things that I had in my stash at that point. And the Cascade, the purple Cascade, was actually leftovers from another sweater that I made, and I think I made this 3 or 4 years ago. It's a little bit of a uniform for me. I wear it a lot. I love this vest. I love vests in general because I'm often a little bit cold, and it's just one of those things that if I was only wearing a shirt, I'd be constantly cold. And even with a vest, I'll often have a shawl on top. But this is a Lettelopi vest, and this was a top-down version that I found that was free on Ravelry. And rather than the bottom up. It was my first time making a colorwork sweater, and I was a little bit nervous about making something bottom up and then discovering that, you know, the colorwork was all screwy or I couldn't do it in some way. So I thought if I could find a top-down version, then I'd get the colorwork over with right away. So it's just a vest, and I'll often wear a shirt underneath it, and it's often my weekend wear. I'll wear this all weekend, but I do wear it to work as well, and I love it, and I wear it all the time. And it's a testament, this sweater is a testament to the quality of Cascade 220, because the sweater that I originally made with the yarn and this vest, which were a good 4 years ago, I wear all the time, and the pilling is actually minimal. I mean, there's been a tiny bit of pilling, but it's been really minimal and manageable. So I really do like Cascade 220 as a workhorse yarn. And as you know, I bought some recently, if you watch my last episode, and I've actually cast on with it. I'll talk about that a little later. So that's what I'm wearing today. So in terms of things that I have finished, I finished and I posted on Instagram, so if you happen to follow me there as Selma Knits, you will have seen this already, but I finished the Getting Warmer Cowl by Espace Tricot. I made this in a double-stranded, sorry, I'm just gonna show this to you, show you what it could look like. I double-stranded this yarn with, there we go, it was Giselle Mohair and Drops Alpaca, double-stranded. I think it was knit on 6mm needles. I just followed the pattern and it worked out wonderfully. And I really, really like it. I have decided to give this to a friend as a Christmas present. We're going to be celebrating Christmas on January 13th because if you watch me before, you'll know that my husband and my 2 children have gone south. They went to Uruguay to visit my husband's family, because that's where he's from. And where, by the way, we've got -27, they've got +27 Celsius, and they're at the beach all the time, and I am here. I do slightly regret my decision, but it was a good idea because my mother requires some care, so I'm here hanging out with her, and I didn't really have a whole lot of vacation to use now, so I'll just suffer. But anyway, as a result, we are celebrating Christmas when they return. And they come back on the 11th of January, so the following Saturday, which I think is the 13th, we are going to be celebrating, and we've got friends coming over, and we're going to do all our gift exchange, and the stockings, which are right there, will be stuffed when the kids come, so they'll get a little stocking upon return, and then we'll do presents on the 13th, and have a big meal, and so the friend who this is going to will be coming that day too, probably. If not, she'll get it another time. So yeah, so this was a delightful, easy knit. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. You know, it's the kind of thing that you can wear as a capulette. You can wear it completely symmetrically if you want to. You can put one up on the side and have it a little bit more jazzy or a little Hunger Gamesy. Or you could really scrunch it up under a coat. And I do think it was an excellent design in the sense that the upper collar is close enough that it does provide warmth. It's not just a drapey, playful or pretty thing. It actually does serve a purpose. And I have worn this a little bit. It is lovely and warm. I really, really like it. And I decided to give it to my friend because she liked it when she saw me knitting it, but also because I made a turtleneck out of this exact yarn combination. And I thought, having a turtleneck and a cowl, the exact same yarn, do I want to do that? I don't know. So anyway, I have enough that I can make another one. And I will probably make this again because it really is a lovely accessory, and you could wear it over a coat, under a coat, over a sweater, over a blouse. Yeah, and I could see myself wanting to wear this a lot. So there you go. that's what it looks like. That's kind of a side seam there. And it becomes this kind of funnel shape like that. It came out very light and airy. And I think that the original pattern called for a wool folk yarn that is a bulky yarn or a chunky yarn that is also light and airy. But I think you could make it in something a little bit more dense as well. But this really is a lovely accessory. The other thing that I finished, and I actually finished it last night, I have not sewn in the ends yet, and there is the stitch marker that is also in the giveaway from Rin Textiles. I made myself the Ricka hat, because if you recall last time, if you watched last time, you'll know that I was coveting the Ricka hat that I gave my mother for Christmas. So I decided I wanted one too. So I finished it last night. Now I was kind of racing to finish it. So I was kind of racing to finish it because I wanted to start a hat for my son. There you go. So my phone rang and then I had to replace things, so I might not have placed them as well as I should have. I don't know. Anyway, hopefully we're all right. Yeah, and so this is the Ricka hat by Sarah Young, I believe. Free pattern on Ravelry, absolutely wonderful. I ended up knitting, I counted my mom's hat's garter ridges so that I could replicate the exact same thing. I used 3mm needles and 4mm needles with Illimana Royal 1, which is a light worsted alpaca. The pattern calls for 3.5mm and 4.5. So I went down 1/2 millimeter for each needle. I cast on the same number of stitches. I did 15 garter ridges for the rib and then switched to the larger needles and did 25 or 26 ridges and then started the decreases. And I really, really like it. So I'm going to be sewing the ends in right away and starting to wear this immediately. Really, really happy with it. And I suspect this won't be my last Ricka. It's just such an easy pattern. Somebody last time commented that, how is it that I was trying on all these hats and my hair wasn't getting staticky? I have no idea. I don't know anything about the science of static, but I don't know why my hair is not getting totally staticky. It got staticky yesterday when I was taking a hat off, but it's not doing it for the podcast. It's really behaving for the podcast. So that's what I was able to finish in the last little while since we last spoke. Since then, well, I haven't quite yet, but I told you I wanted to make a hat for my son. So I actually took out a bag that I made that I had also put in the shop, some of these in my shop called Little Creek Designs, and I haven't sewn in a long time. I've been thinking about it, but I just haven't gotten there. So anyway, in here is the yarn that I got to make for my son, a hat for my son. And now that I cast off the Ricka hat for myself, I'm going to be making him a black hat. Not a whole lot to show you here, except that this is the Drops alpaca as well. Or is it Sadness Garn alpaca? Sorry, I think it's Sadness Garn alpaca in black. And yeah, I'm going to be starting that today. I won't be making him a Ricka. I think I'll be making him, you know, like a hat with probably 1x1 ribbing and then a slouchy type of thing. Something not too tight. Something that hopefully a teenager will want to wear. What else have I been working on? Well, last time I showed you this beautiful pattern by Debbie Reese called The Silent Snowfall, and I also did a giveaway for it. So I cast it on. Now I have not been able to get very far. I cast on, I really wanted purple socks. Given how I end up wearing a lot of purple. Is it my favorite color? I don't know that it's my favorite color. I really think my favorite color is more like a storm gray blue. I think I showed you guys some yarn last time. I said this is probably my favorite color. But I'm not one to play favorites a lot, but I do gravitate a lot towards purple. I gravitate towards a lot of colors. It just, when it has the right hue and I just really like it, I go for it. Somebody, actually Stephanie Hilker, who used to have the Milk Shed podcast, we did a swap a couple of years ago. I think Melissa of the Spicy Homemaker was hosting a swap with podcasters. So I was in that swap with Stephanie, and she sent me this yarn. And it is a very, very vibrant, it's coming out a little electric there, but very vibrant purple. And I decided that I wanted to make these socks, although they were absolutely beautiful in a delicate color. I wanted to make them in something a little bit, I really wanted purple socks, and I really wanted to make them in something that was a bit darker. And part of that is because my Christmas cast on from last year, this is not my Christmas cast on, that's coming next, was for, you know, a pink yarn, and I made the Mercury socks. So I thought, well, I'd like to have lacy socks that have got a deeper color to them. So you can't see a whole lot yet, but there we go. So I now suddenly have 2 pairs of socks on the needle. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to go, because I think they're going to end up being slow. But these are being housed in this lovely bag that Sue gave me, that it's just like this perfect sock bag. And that's Sue, the Two Tangled Skeins, by the way. And her shop, if you're interested in going to check, is called The Tangled Skein CA. So Christmas cast on, as you know, probably from other podcasters, from Instagram, from following Danny of Little Bobbins yourself, she started this tradition a few years ago of doing a Christmas Eve cast on. I did it for the first time last year, and I cast on the pink Mercury socks with Wool Barn yarn that I just mentioned. And I decided that even though I already had a pair of socks on the needles, that I wanted to do it for 2 reasons: because it's really fun to join in, but also because I had bought this yarn at Rhinebeck at the Indie Untangled from Wool and Vine, from Christian of Yarngasm and Wool and Vine Yarns. And you know what? I have asked Santa for a new Swift and ball winder for Christmas. And so I do hope that eventually my skeins will be more attractive. But I got this fantastic skein of Into the Silence is the colorway on her Blitz base. And this is Wool and Vine Yarns. And I bought this specifically because I wanted to knit Christmas socks for myself out of this. So I decided that I wanted to go ahead and cast on another pair of socks, even though I already had a pair on. And I am doing the First Star by Jessica Gore. That's the pattern. And it's just coming out absolutely beautifully at this point. Look at that. Is that stunning? Oh, like it's really, really, it's working out great. And the pattern is working really well with the speckles. It's a lovely pattern. And it looks exactly like that. Jessica Gore, I can't remember, I think she's the Sweater Collective on Instagram, and her patterns. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the down bar, and there may be a correction. This pattern is interesting because it is multi-directional in the sense that it can be, or bi-directional, that it can be a toe up or cuff down, and she's got the pattern for both. So I'm doing it toe up because that's my preferred method. In fact, Debbie Reese's pattern is a top down one. And I'm glad to be doing it because I feel like I always end up doing my socks, making my socks the same way, and it's good to be shaking that up a little bit. So yeah, so I started this on Christmas Eve. This is also in a bag that Sue of the Tangled Skein gave to me last year. It's the only Christmas bag I have. So last year I was like, I probably should have a Christmas bag, so she gave that to me. The last thing that I am working on is in this wonderful bag. that was made and given to me, what could it be, 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago or so, by Tracy, who has an Etsy shop called She Built It. Bags She Built. Jeez, how did I get that wrong? She makes bags out of vintage linen tablecloths. And so this is a wonderful, wonderful, thick linen fabric. And I think she has some of these in her shop, and different types of vintage fabrics. They're really beautiful and nicely made as well. In here I told you last time when I bought the red Cascade, which is hiding. I'm gonna have to wind a new skein soon. I bought 4 skeins. This is the end of the 3rd skein. I told you that I was gonna make an Andy Sanderlin pattern. So I am actually making the Tessellate. I thought about making the chuck, but I was a little concerned because the chuck has these large cable-y diamonds in the front, and the original pattern has 2. But I was worried that that would be way too short for me, that I would want to make the sweater longer, but that meant that I had to make 3 diamonds, you know, in order for it to look right. And then I thought, will that be long enough, too long, or how will that be? It's a little bit difficult to modify the length. So I thought, let me see what other sweaters she has. And I wasn't 100% sure. Sometimes I would see finished objects for the chuck where the shoulder construction didn't quite sit right, and I didn't know, is that just because of the way people are doing it, or is there something in the pattern? I don't know. But then I saw this pattern, which was a recent publication, called the Tessellate. And it's a different kind of, I think that picture is somehow better. It's got these kind of diamonds down the front and a double seed stitch in a couple of panels, and I thought that this somehow would be easier to modify the length of. And there are not very many projects for this because I think she just published this, it may have been this fall, in fact. So I decided to give that a try. This is a bit of a different kind of sweater for me, in the sense that this is meant to be a snug fitting cropped sweater. And I have to say, I tried it on yesterday. I was with some knitting friends, and I think we all agreed that it needed to be a little longer. I don't have the best waistline in the world. I don't have a small waistline. I have quite a bit of flesh in that area. So a cropped sweater is not necessarily the best. And I even wondered if I made it a little bit too snug, but I think it's going to be just fine. It's looking fabulous, and it stretches out a lot because of the way the panels are. But I've already finished the body, although I am going to have to pull it out. We agreed yesterday that it needed to be about 1 inch longer. So I will be pulling out the ribbing and making it 1 inch longer, and then it'll be the right length. And it looks really teeny weeny, but it stretches out a lot. But it is really a zero ease sweater. I actually, in the size that I made, I did not end up casting on as many stitches under there for a couple of reasons. I was worried that the arms were going to be too big. And the arms are fine the way it is now. And I was also worried that it was actually going to be a little loose here. In retrospect, I think I could have probably made the arms a little bit less deep and cast on the full number of stitches. But it's still going to be fine. It fits, and really I'm making this for skirts, to wear with skirts at work. I have a couple of skirts. I have a navy skirt, I have a black skirt, and I have a tweed skirt that this will go with. And I've started one of the sleeves. So this is in the Cascade 220. I think the color was 4009 or something like that. And it's just a very rich, it's in their Heathered series, rich color So there you can see the diamondy pattern. So I finished a diamond here at the bottom, but in order to make this long, I'll basically just be going halfway into that. That's going to be repeating underneath. I'll be going halfway into the diamond and then I'll stop, and that'll look fine. So hopefully next week this will be done, if I'm able to podcast next week. I plan on, I'm going to visit my father who lives outside of Quebec City. I'll be taking the train or the bus tomorrow morning, and it's a 5-hour trip. So I'll be spending a lot of that time listening to podcasts or an audiobook. I started listening to Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Yoda, you're not going to jump on that. Anyway, I've started listening to Dracula, so I'll be listening to that. I downloaded some audio podcasts to listen to as well, some knitting ones and some non-knitting ones. There's a Canadian history one called, and it's about film history, called You Must Remember This, so I've downloaded that, and some CBC podcasts. So lots of listening for the bus or the train. I think I'm probably taking the bus, and I hope to finish this while in Quebec City. We'll see. I'm going to be visiting my dad. I'll be there for New Year's, but it'll be very quiet. He's in his 80s, and you know, we'll probably be watching Jon Stewart or something like that. He loves those guys. And not Jon Stewart. It's not Jon Stewart anymore. It's Trevor Noah, but he watches him every night, as well as the other one. Anyway, we'll be having a good time together, watching movies and chatting and relaxing. So I'm just going to go for a couple of days, but it's a 5-hour bus trip, which means at least 10 hours of knitting if I can handle knitting for 5 hours straight. And then at his place as well, there'll be some knitting time. So that's it for whips. Couple of things. Oh, so I told you that I'm about to start knitting socks or a hat for my son. I do a draw at work. Excuse me, you got to see the top of my head. I do a draw at work every year with my team. I have 8 employees, and I knit somebody an item. So I put their names in a hat or in an envelope usually, and then I draw a name. And this year, there's somebody who's on assignment with us won. And we had already had a conversation at one point about hand-knitted socks, and he was just like, oh, what a wonderful idea. And he loves purple. We're often both wearing purple. And so when he won, I said, I guess you want purple socks? And he was like, yeah. So I have 3 yarns, and I haven't chosen yet. I think what I'm going to do is next week when I'm back at the office and he's back at the office, I'm going to show him these 3 yarns, and he can decide which of these 3 yarns he would like to become socks. So I have this Felici, which is in the Countess colorway, and there are different kinds of purples. We'll see. He might find this perfectly fine. He may find it a little bit too feminine. I don't know. We'll see. I also have this one. Oops, excuse me. The band has fallen off. It's an opal that my friend Dana had sent to me, which has purple in it. Purple and red and blue. And this is from their series called Schafpate 7 Die Wacholdenheide. And I think this is basically using all wools that are relatively local, or German anyway. That was the band, which has since fallen off. But there's that. Or I have a skein of this Comfort Socken Volecolor, which is more blues, but there is some purple in there. I don't know if the purple's coming out, but right there. So I'm gonna let him decide. So that'll probably get cast on next week. So that'll be like a 3rd sock. And this one will take priority because I'll want to give it to him. He's actually going to be ending his assignment with us on the, in mid-January. So it's unlikely that they'll be finished for then, but hopefully they'll be finished soon thereafter. In terms of acquisitions, you may know that Holst Garn, which is a Danish yarn company, had a sale earlier in December. I think it was kind of a Black Friday sale. So I have to say, I bought some. And I bought this yarns, I bought a sweater quantity of, they have a few different bases. This was their coast base, which is 55 lamb's wool and 45 cotton. So it's a wool cotton blend. This is their Harbor colorway, which is this sort of indigo blue type of color. It's really beautiful. And I bought this to make the Donner sweater by Elizabeth Doherty. It's a very lovely construction of a sweater. And this is a fingering weight yarn. It's quite a light fingering weight actually, so I'm curious to see how it knits up. It says 26 stitches for 3mm needles, so we'll see. That's kind of more of a sport weight, but it really does look very much like a fingering weight. So that'll get cast on at some point. So I bought a sweater quantity, actually probably more than a sweater quantity, because I've got 6 of those and each one has 380 yards. So, you know, that's around 2,000 yards. I also bought a few stray ones because I wanted to see what the colors looked like. I bought these two because I could not decide online which one I liked more. This is called Red Currant and this one is Begonia. And I still can't quite decide which one I like more. I thought I liked this one, but now on camera I'm like, oh, maybe I like this one. Anyway, they will get knit up possibly into a colorwork sweater, but I wanted to see what they looked like. I also wanted to see what this brown looked like because this looked beautiful and I thought this could be a nice sweater for my husband. This is the warm brown colorway and it really is a beautiful, beautiful brown. And then I bought 2 of these, and this is not the same base. This is the Tides base, which is a 70 wool, 30 silk. So there's the heathering that comes along with silk, and it's coming across quite electric. This is the fuchsia colorway, and they're slightly different dye lots, which kind of irritated me, but I will make it work. I am thinking about mixing these with a mohair that I had gotten in the summer for the ranunculus. And that's why I got 2 of these. So they were having an amazing sale. Their yarns are so reasonably priced always, and then on sale they were just crazy reasonable. A couple of other things that have come into my life. I bought this for myself, but then I decided to wrap it up and give it to myself as a Christmas present. I don't know if you follow OBrien. She is a knitwear designer. She designs primarily shawls, beautiful shawls, the Lily Pilly. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the names right now, but she has so many. I made one of hers. I showed it to you a couple of episodes ago, the Cowl, which is a bias striped one that I was having problems with. It's the one that needs to get mended. It hasn't happened yet. I keep looking at it. So she also has this pin design. She makes these beautiful shawl pins, and I got the silver one. And so I look forward to wearing that. There you can see. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just beautiful. So that was kind of my Christmas present to myself. Really, really happy with that and can't wait to start using it. I also received a gift from lovely, lovely Erica, who has ink bags. I don't know if you follow her on Instagram. I have been just coveting one of her bags for so long. They're so beautiful. She makes 2 types of bags. She makes these notions pouches, And now that I've shown it to you, and they're made out of beautiful sort of cotton linen fabrics, kind of a chambray type. And she makes these bags that have windows in them. So you can put your stuff in and you will, whoops, you will see them. So she sent me one of these bags and this Notion pouch. Thank you so much, Erica. But she also sent one for our Cowl. So right now, myself and Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Craft, we are hosting a Garment Galore Cowl. And actually, I'm just going to insert that right here and talk about it. The hashtag for that is Garments Galore Cowl. If you want to post stuff on Instagram. Uh-oh. I have to keep paper and things like that away from Yoda because she shreds them. So, and now because she's so bored and wanting my attention, she's starting to get herself into trouble. Before I started podcasting, she was attacking something. So anyway, we have the Garment Galore Cowl going along. So that is for, if you want to join in, that is for garment knitting. So it's clothing, whether it's a sweater, a dress, a cardigan, a vest, a skirt, pants, if you want to knit Stephen West's tight pant things that he's got going on right now, or anything of that nature. And we have a finished object thread. There's a chatter thread. There's some nice conversation going on in there. If you want to join in, but you're nervous about sizing or whatever, come in there and we'll help you out. We also have a finished object thread in my group for your first sweater ever. So if you are knitting your first garment, it doesn't have to be a sweater. It could be a cardigan, it could be a skirt. If you're knitting your first ever, then you can enter it into that thread as well as the regular finished object thread. And if you have knit something that required more than 1,400 yards of yarn, so perhaps a dress or a larger sweater or something that was larger and used very fine yarns, or whatever that you knit that required more than 1,400 yards, you can also enter it into Kate's finished object thread, which we have called the Mount Everest thread. So you can enter it in hers as well, and there will be prizes at the end. We'll both be having prizes. And so I had put out a call if there was anybody who wanted to donate prizes. I'm going to show them all soon, primarily because I've got, I'm still waiting for something, and I'm not having printer problems. So there are a couple of patterns that were donated, and I'm just having a real difficult time with printing. But Erica of Ink Bags also donated in a different color a Notions pouch and a bag. So that's a beautiful gift. If you're interested in donating, by the way, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm still accepting donations for that, and I'm hoping that some yarn will be coming from Uruguay as well. We'll see. So there you go. Thank you very much, Erica. It's really beautiful. Now that I've shown it, I can start using it. Sue, the crafty knitter, also gifted this skein to me from Northbound Yarns, who's Lisa Much. She's a yarn dyer and often does interesting grays. So Sue, the Two Tangle Skeins, had gifted this to me along with this cup for Christmas. Thank you, Sue. Sue also gifted this pattern to me. Now, as I said, I'm having printer problems, so please excuse the fact that they've made Hohi Locatelli look a bit like a zombie, because I think it's the dark, the pink sweater looks fabulous, actually. So Hohi Locatelli recently came out with this new pattern, All the Love, and all the proceeds from this pattern are going towards, I believe, a school in Argentina, or to a program for children in Argentina. And it is a beautiful, simple, sort of drop shoulder, boxy type of sweater called All the Love. And unfortunately, they made it look terrible. Just ignore that. So Sue gifted that to me. And Andrea Delhi, who's also a member of our group, recently came out with a pattern, and I had commented on how interesting it looked. Luckily, the picture came out, the writing did not, but she's got a new pattern called Plain Heel Socks that she also sent me. It's very interesting because, as you can see, it's really a plain heel. There isn't that boxiness or diagonal lines or whatever. It's all happening underneath. So it's a very interesting construction that I hope to be able to try at some point. Thank you very much, Andrea. And that's called the Plain Heel Socks. And I think that's about it. So thank you for joining me. I'll just tell you a little bit about some other stuff going on in my life. So if you're not that interested, you don't have to stick around. I wish you a happy new year. If you want to stick around, I'll just tell you a little bit about stuff that's going on around here. So I've already mentioned a few things that I'm going to Quebec City tomorrow. My family left on the 23rd of December, and the weather was horrible. And they had 3 flights to take because they flew from here to Toronto, from Toronto to Santiago de Chile, and from Santiago to Montevideo, Uruguay. And luckily, they made all the flights. The suitcases did not, so they got the suitcases a day late, which is minor. But they got there, and the weather has been gorgeous, and they're having a great time. We were FaceTiming just before I started podcasting, and they're already all tanned. I'll just stay here and be pale. But that's going really well for them. I am missing them, but it's only 2.5 weeks, so I'm taking advantage as well of being on my own. Christmas was lovely. I spent it with my mother and a friend of ours. We had a lovely meal here, and we also watched a couple of movies over the few days. We watched The Polar Express, which I had never seen. We also watched Moonlight, not a Christmas movie, which won the Golden Globe for Best Picture last year, and I think one of the actors won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. I don't know if it had any other prizes, but we watched that, and it was a heavier movie, but a very, very good movie. It was a really beautifully put together movie, beautifully told story. It could have been, it was a bit of a heavy story, I have to tell you, but it was handled in a way that was just so subtle and beautiful. I really, really, really enjoyed that movie. And if you are interested in cinema, more serious films, then I think that is worth seeing. I really, really enjoyed it. I have been seeing friends as well. We had a few of us get together yesterday for some knitting. I was at Holly's house, and we were Skyping with our friend Kate and our friend Amy, and that was lots of fun. And getting together tonight with another friend of mine, had lunch with another friend on the 26th. It's been nice catching up with friends. I've also been enjoying quiet time at home, being able to watch what I want to watch without being interrupted. That is quite something. And sleeping in, that is quite something. So I have been watching, I finished the Outlander series, about when it finished at the end of November, beginning of December. I gotta be honest, season number 3 didn't do it for me. I think season number 1 was really the best so far. I still really enjoyed season number 2. Season number 2 was great. Season number 3 ended well. The last couple of episodes were really good. And I'm not quite sure if it was because I was listening to the audiobook and then I gave up, but I was listening to the audiobook and I was always just ahead of each episode. And then I ended up watching the episodes as if, and comparing them to the book all the time. So I stopped reading, or I was listening to the book because I thought, you know what, it's ruining my TV experience, and really for me this is more about the TV than it is about the book. But it was okay. There was something missing, and I'm not 100% sure what, because there was definitely action and characters reappearing and stuff like that, but So I do look forward to season number 4, but it didn't have the same grip on me as the first 2 seasons did. I have since started watching Shetland, which is a Scottish series, a crime series, which I'm very much enjoying, not only for the show and the wonderful accents and the fabulous scenery, but also for the knitwear. There is like so much beautiful knitwear in that show, and Scotland really is a place that takes its knitwear seriously, and I really, really appreciate that about Scotland. And so I've been enjoying that, although I can't watch a lot of crime stuff. I have a delicate constitution, shall we say, that way, and I can get creeped out quite easily, although it's not a very creepy show, so it's been okay, but I can get creeped out very easily, and I'm alone in the house, and the last thing I want to do is have a hard time sleeping because I'm just constantly wondering what's going on. But I wouldn't call Shetland creepy, but it really is beautiful. And a little aside from that is that, I don't know if you watch the Fruity Knitting podcast, but they recently, I think in their last episode, interviewed a woman who is a designer in Fair Isle. And it was a really, really interesting conversation around knitting and the seriousness with which it is taken in Scotland and in that area in Fair Isle, and how integrated it is into everyday life. It was really, really beautiful to listen to, in some ways inspiring, because it was great to know that there are places where they take knitting that seriously, and in other ways kind of, it sort of made me think, oh, I wish that we had a little bit more of that culture here, for example, in Canada. But I find it fascinating how seriously Scotland takes yarn and knitting. It's really wonderful and very, very interesting. Fruity Knitting also had recently another episode where they interviewed Isolde Teague, and that was a fabulous interview as well. So check them out if you haven't. The other show that I started watching, and my Rika hat made me, I think this is my crown, because I'm watching The Crown. And I've been really enjoying that. Very interesting, far more interesting than I expected it to be, actually. All the ins and outs of things that were happening when Queen Elizabeth came to power, and the history around that. And it seems to be quite well researched. I'm assuming that the majority of the things that happen in there are quite true. And it's been really, really good. So yeah, so this is the end of 2017. I'm not going to tell you about all my plans because I'm trying really hard not to. I think that is my goal. My goal is to kind of twofold. I guess there is a little bit of a plan. I'm trying not to set too many goals and just trying to be now. I'm knitting this sweater now. I'll think about the next sweater as I get close to the end, but I'm just trying to enjoy this sweater at this point. Another thing I have been thinking about, and I've been pondering it for this year. I love knitting. I will not stop knitting. It's very much a part of my life. It has been since I started knitting at the age of 9. But I feel I have become a little bit monothematic. I used to do a lot of different types of crafts and arts. I used to draw a lot. In fact, that portrait right there, which you can't see very well, that's a pastel I did of my son. There's another one back there that you can't see. It's a bit more ominous, of my dad holding a pipe. They're pastels that I did. I met my husband doing pottery. I've often done different types of drawing and different types of crafts. And I feel that I've become very, very centered on knitting, to the point where sometimes I feel not bored, but I feel like I should be doing something else. And I realize I don't read a lot anymore. So this year books have been coming into my life a little bit more. I used to go to the movies and be up on pretty much all what's going on right now, and it's just, I barely go to the cinema. We did see Star Wars this year, by the way, as well, which is great fun. But again, I think I preferred the last one to this one. Anyway, So I'm feeling like 2018 for me is going to be a little bit about finding those other aspects of myself again a little bit more, and balancing that with knitting. That's my feeling. So I'm not making any knitting goals. I will be knitting garments because that's what I do. Oh, and by the way, Kristen of Woolenvine is going to be starting a garment knit along as well. So, feel free to go in there and come back into ours and dip all over the place. But I will always knit garments because I do love knitting garments, and I got a lot of sweater quantities. So there'll always be a sweater on the go. But I don't know what else, and I don't know which ones. Everybody's posting that making 2018, I think, the hashtag on Instagram. I just can't do that. I cannot. I feel like I really just need to knit what is inspiring me at that moment. I don't want to plan my entire year. I used to spend a lot of time making lists, and I just don't want to do that right now. So maybe 2018 is going to be really about finding that balance and finding a way to listen to myself and what I need and what I feel like doing. It's a lesson to learn at some point. So that's it for now. Perhaps as we come into 2018, there'll be some more thoughts and I'll share those with you. Remember the giveaway. Please comment below. Actually, you know what? Can I change things? You can comment whatever. You can comment down below about, if you have any comments about the podcast, what you've enjoyed, what you'd like to see or whatever. But I am curious if you have any thoughts on the next year for yourself. Feel free to share that as well, whether it is a word or a resolution or some plans or whatever. Let me know. I won't be responding to those so that I can keep the count very, nice and organized. So just know that. I do like to respond to people, but I won't be at this time. Okay. And then we'll draw that, not next episode if that happens to be a week from now, but if I'm not able to podcast a week from now and I end up podcasting 2 or 3 weeks from now, then I'll draw then. All right. So I think that's it for now. I do wish you a happy rest of the holidays if you're off. I hope that 2017 ends on a positive note for you, and I hope that 2018 starts out on a very positive note for you. Life has a way of bringing all kinds of different things in, and I hope that none of those things are too big or too small, and they're just right, and that 2018 is a solid and good year for all of us. Take good care. We'll see you in 2018, and wishing you happy crafting until then, and all the best. Take care.